You're about to listen to a podcast full of wonder, excitement, and discovery. It's time for an adventure through Odyssey. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Adventures Through Odyssey podcast, Odyssey Revisited. I'm Will here with Gabe, Elizabeth, and John.
Let's just restart that.
It's fine, I won't murder.
Okay, and today we're going to talk about Album 55, but before we completely kick the show off, last week we found out both Jay Smouse and Paul McCusker have left Adventures in Odyssey. So we would just like to have a moment of silence for those two. Alright, moment's over. Does anyone have any parting words before we move on to the next part of the podcast?
Well, anything good left in Odyssey just left, so...
Indeed. This was the proverbial
I was more annoyed by Jay than Rodney, so I was kind of okay to see Jay go, but...
Jay, to me, was one of those characters who started off bad, but they were going in a good direction with. And then, Paul McCusker...
Yeah, I haven't listened to enough to form an opinion, besides that his voice was super annoying to me.
That's true. The only other thing I'll say is Paul McCusker's been there since the beginning, but a certain other Adventures in Odyssey podcast may have referred to him as the Stephen Moffat of Adventures in Odyssey. I don't quite know if I should say that.
That's a decent one.
But that does mean we'll never see Glossman return, so...
Oh, true.
We were all expecting that to happen.
Well, I think at one point he was supposed to
Would
be
have been better
Novacom,
than nothing.
But we'll talk about it when we get to the Novacom show. Alright, so we're going to kick off Album 55, which I said was in my bottom 5, with The Labyrinth, Parts 1 through 3, Episodes 703 through 705, written by Paul McCusker and Nathan Hubler, aired March 3rd to the 17th, 2012. Jason's pursuit of Mr. Groat leads him to London, where he finds a plot even more ominous than the Green Ring conspiracy. Jason must seek the help of some old friends to unravel Mr. Groat's schemes before it's too late.
My name's Sue, because I'm like a sewer rat.
Yes.
I liked this 3-part series.
You did say you love adventure episodes, so I'm not surprised.
Basically, if it has Jason, I like it. Like, he adds a level of interest to the show that I enjoy.
Oh, level of interest? What kind of interest?
Well...
Only a little brother would take it like that.
I think it's a very good episode. I just also feel like it's very generic, like, compared to a lot of the adventure-ish episodes. Like... I've kind of seen this all happen before in a way, and it's also a little bit forgettable because of that. I think it's a good episode. It's just kind of like we've seen this all before.
Yes.
This is true. Before we go on, so I can stop laughing, can we take a moment to appreciate Will and John sharing headphones but sitting as far apart from each other as possible?
I forgot to shower today. I'm too cheap to buy a splitter.
I just
needed to mention that before I kept laughing, and we can continue now.
All right, but it is
very good point, John. It is similar, but honestly, that's part of what I like about Odyssey is the predictability of adventure episodes.
Yes, I mean it is nice to see Dale Jacobs back. Although originally that was supposed to be Jack and Joanne, which probably would have been a little better of an appearance, but I know it was a scheduling conflict. But question...
Even though I kind of like Dale Jacobs because I was not expecting it at all, so...
Oh, yeah. It felt like a better cameo because those two have been in since they rebooted.
Yeah.
Or whatever they're calling it now. But nice to carry on from the Green Ring, but yeah, I didn't remember very much of what happened until I re-listened to it.
Yeah.
So, we clearly are done there. Alright. To Mend or Repair, episode 706, written by Marshall Younger and Paul McCusker, aired March 24th, 2012. To distract Katrina from some devastating personal news, Eugene tries to find a way to keep her busy. Meanwhile, Barrett gives Priscilla a special honor, reading the Pledge of Allegiance on the morning announcements.
Okay, so before we talk about this, I predicted what this devastating news is gonna be 2 years before this episode, because Will's like, oh, are Katrina and Eugene ever gonna have kids? I'm like, well, at this point, probably not. They're probably gonna be something like they can't have a kid and they're gonna adopt. And I said this 2 years before this episode aired. So...
This is true. I remember having this conversation at the lake house or something like that.
Yeah, I was just like... If they haven't done it by now, there's probably some weird setup they're gonna do.
Yeah, and then they adopted Buck, which they haven't gone anywhere with yet, so...
They did, like, one plot element, and it was kind of like, I need to trust him more. Or you have to stay out of danger, Buck.
I thought that was, it was funny.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about them adopting Buck. That's probably another conversation for another day, but it just is a little weird.
When album 60 hits, we'll talk about it. But, yeah, I like this. One of the funnier scenes in this episode for me is Katrina watching the Fishing Network and getting really into it.
Yes, that was pretty entertaining.
Oh, my line
Because just how into sports some people can get. Well, I don't know if fishing's really that competitive of a sport.
Oh, you're gonna open up a can of worms if you say that.
I have a friend who does
no pun
competitive
intended.
bass fishing.
I'm not saying it's, like, not a sport. I'm just saying, can it really ever get that heated?
Well...
We apologize to all the fishing lovers watching this podcast. Yeah. Will does not mean any harm by his comments.
Yes.
Okay,
I also feel like the whole thing with Barrett and Priscilla is a pretty lame second plot. Like, again, something we've seen a lot, something similar before, and it doesn't even make sense.
Well, I will say, Barrett reading the announcements very much reminds me of this one cousin we have who did read the announcements at his high school for years.
I thought it was for like a week.
Well, no, Alex did it for 2 years, but he asked a girl to prom over the announcements, so he was banned from doing it until the next year.
Yeah.
But they didn't tell him for like a week because they felt so bad because he's such a nice guy. But you know, he would like.
I don't understand why you get in trouble for that. Like, yeah, I don't understand why you get in trouble.
My high school had the same thing where if you asked a girl to prom as a chapel announcement, they would ban you from ever writing an announcement again.
That's funny because a guy a couple weeks ago asked a girl to our, like, it's called fall thing, our, like, school formal thing at chapel in front of the entire student body. And everyone applauded it, including our vice president.
Well, it just depends.
Well, it happened...
It's the difference between a ring by spring school and high school.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, they did it once because it was the guy who enforced that's daughter who was being asked, so the administration approved it because they wanted to see what the guy would do.
Oh, right. That.
It was interesting.
Yes. But, yeah, you know, screwing up the national...
Okay, moving on.
Yeah, let's move on.
Yeah, but plots about screwing up, like, the National Anthem or Pledge of Allegiance just never made sense to me. Like, maybe screw something up a little less well-known.
Yeah. I mean,
I
guess it's because the audience kind of needs to know.
They're literally like the generic person in a video game.
So they get that it's being messed up. But...
Yeah. I don't know.
Also, what happened to Barrett and Priscilla?
They were generic characters, so they were phased out.
I like to think they got locked in the imagination station and died from malnutrition.
Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of the kids that came in at the beginning of the whole
refresh.
Well, one, it was a while, and I felt like they never really did anything with them, so they kind of probably just kind of left because they're like, we're not doing anything.
Yeah, I mean I always wonder why they never wrote Kurt and Lucy's relationship in, but now I understand why they didn't. Mm-hmm. All right, moving on to one of the reasons this is on my bottom 5. Mistaken for Good, episode 707, written by Bob Hoose, aired March 31st, 2012. Jay's visit to a nursing home takes an unexpected turn when an old woman mistakes him for her grandson and offers him money as a birthday present.
Isn't there an older generation episode exactly like this, or am I thinking of this episode?
You are thinking... There's like an episode where Donna meets this old woman at a nursing home and they bond. The money part is not in there.
Okay, so then I'm thinking of this episode, because I thought there was an old one exactly
Jay,
like
though,
it, but it must just be this one.
Right.
When is this really going to happen to a person listening to Odyssey?
Well, you never know. I've been mistaken for grandsons in nursing homes before.
Yeah.
Yes,
Well, that credibility of our show just went way down.
But were you young enough that you would consider taking money from that person?
Yeah, I would not have taken money. Let me put it this way. If they were forcing the money on me and I could not get them to stop,
like,
I would
take
take
the
it
money,
once
son.
and stop after that. Or I would probably
We just
take the
found
money.
out Will's morals.
No, I would probably take the money, give it back to
Yeah, but yeah, so she has
Wasn't listening to
she has
it.
Social
To
Security.
be
She has a
fair,
lot of stuff.
I would
and
actually
what
probably
she can
take
spend
the
it on.
money, give it to the nurse to have it slip her back into the bag.
You're already too far gone. Will.
Well,
I hope
importantly,
Grandma Barb
where
isn't
is she?
listening to this.
I want to ask, where is this woman getting all this money?
Fixed income.
She's in a nursing home.
Social Security.
Yeah, retirement.
I guess you're right. There was something else.
Here, I think that it's like, I like this episode, but the ending is a little bit, I think at one time it's sweet, and at the same time kind of stupid, because if it's known, if Whit found out that, oh, he stopped taking the money and all that, I don't know why he couldn't come back.
Yeah.
Or stop.
It's like the typical
what he
cranky
did.
older
Right.
person.
I think the fact that he can't
role.
see her anymore is a little bit.
That's why I don't like this
I don't
episode.
think that's enough to dislike the episode. It is a little bit like, okay.
This does start a downward spiral of Mrs. Kramer, though, because she said she lost all her faith in humanity because of it. All right, moving on to Sergeant York, parts 1 through 4.
Uh-oh, we're gonna have some controversy over this one, I can tell by John's face.
Okay, well, here's what I have to say. I like the story. I think it fits Odyssey and it works. There is zero reason for this to be a 4-part episode, considering the only things that happen are in parts 1 and part 4. I would even question it being a 3-part episode.
Yeah, 2 at max.
2 should have been like the max. They just included every possible piece of information about Sergeant York as possible to somehow make this a 4-part episode.
But guess what? When he came up in history class, I knew what I was talking about.
That is true. They did bring him up in one of my classes. And like, well, I know about him, but do I need to know this much about him?
But
Yeah, it's
I
like-
have to say, this was the first, I think to date, this was the first historical episode that I actually enjoyed. I'm going to preface this was probably because there was a bit of a chick flick element to it, but it was a good historical episode for Odyssey.
Right, I think it was good. It was just way too long because like parts 2 and 3 were just kind of like, okay, I'll give some background. It was all about him and his faith, which is good, but nothing really eventful happened.
It was entertaining, though.
Yeah,
think
it
at
was.
least.
It's just like it was totally. I thought it was at least entertaining. It was just so unnecessary, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll agree. And apparently one of the Duggars had a voice cameo in this one.
Let's move on.
Yes,
Moving
okay.
on. We're not getting into
I
that
do
one.
completely... I know, I won't get into that. This was not supposed to be a political thing.
It wouldn't even been political, really.
Controversial.
You know what I
maybe?
meant. So this is the Ken Burns Odyssey episode, let's be perfectly honest.
Oh, reference. So many people will get well.
I don't know, we seem like PBS people listen to our podcast. Okay,
Oh my god, where did that come from, Will?
because it's an overlong history documentary.
Okay.
Yep. Alright, sorry, just had to pull something up. Right. It is too long. It's kind of like when for like the 10th anniversary, they had everyone vote for their favorite episodes, and the Underground Railroad won. I find that episode very boring, and I know a lot of people who really enjoy this episode.
This episode? Or
Really?
the Underground Railroad?
Yeah.
I also liked
This
the Underground
episode.
Railroad, I have to say, just side note. But
Right.
I did enjoy this episode, personally.
I did enjoy the Underground Railroad too, and here's the thing. That one, I guess you could consider overly long, but I felt like at least the narrative kept going during the Underground Railroad. Like, they were constantly going somewhere. I felt like at least for one episode, it was just kind of him in the same position. Not that the episode's bad, it was just, it could have been edited down.
This is kind of in the same position as the Hobbit movies. 3 movies instead of 1, even though it's not like Sergeant York was a book, but it still should have been total 2 parts at the most.
Yeah, well, I read on the wiki they did say the episode was supposed to be 3 parts, but we had 18 minutes of footage left.
So throw it in an episode.
Right. You see, and again, this would have been a great club thing. Release it as 3 parts, but then put out the 18 extra minutes as club exclusive footage.
Yeah.
Or audio, whatever they're going to
I
call
want
it.
to know how profitable Odyssey Adventure Club actually is for them. Just curious.
Well, we did start that tier system. I was quite happy about that.
Oh,
So.
It's been
They
so
did.
long since I've gotten on there. I don't even know what you're talking
I
about.
honestly feel like it's the only way Odyssey's making money anymore.
Like, is Odyssey
Yeah,
even
because
still popular?
Let's be real. Who is actually going to Family Christian Store and buying Odyssey albums?
No.
Well, okay, here's
We,
the
like,
way.
stopped,
The
like,
25th, I
4
think,
years
anniversary of
ago.
the live show they had, there were not that many people there compared to
Yeah.
older ones.
Well, that's the thing. I don't think VeggieTales has a much bigger audience.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, you
VeggieTales
you
isn't.
can walk.
Well, I feel like VeggieTales. Well, I don't know.
You
I
can
don't
walk
know
into
if
a
it ha-
Target and buy VeggieTales. That is a point.
Yeah.
I think VeggieTales has more name recognition. A dedicated audience, it's probably about the same, but a random person might pick up a VeggieTales because they've heard of it.
And also,
Yes,
like, churches are more likely to use VeggieTales than they are to use Adventures in
Yeah.
Odyssey.
Yeah, they're not going to
Yes.
have all the kids sit down for a half hour and listen to an Odyssey.
I've tried that. It
I
doesn't
would
work.
have them. Maybe slightly older kids, and they've both gone to exclusive streaming episodes. So
We're not getting into the Netflix VeggieTales series. I thought it was
I-
fine, but they crossed the line somewhere. But let's just keep
yeah,
going.
so they added that piece of bacon.
Yeah.
But, okay. Okay. See, we don't have a lot to say about this episode because it's just too bloated. And again, this is what really starts to drag the album down for me. There's one other thing we do that's pretty egregious, and we'll get to that in a moment. But Child's Play, episode 712, written by Marshall Younger, aired May 5th, 2012. Eugene and Katrina take on a crazy weekend when they agree to babysit 2 kids, one with limitless energy and another who must know the answer to every question. Okay,
I don't think I've
like
ever
that they
heard this
did address
episode,
it.
so I'm just going to listen.
I think this
Okay.
is just it's a funny episode that I think they need to do more of that don't really have to do anything with the overall plot of the album or what they're going for in Odyssey right now.
Right. And I'm glad they knocked out touching on the Eugene and Katrina thing quickly. It's not 2 albums later.
Right.
I think it's a funny episode, though. Again, it's so generic. In like, okay, you know how many forms of media have done the 2 prospective parents babysit, and it's like 2 kids, and they have to deal with them. Like, that's done so much.
But it's entertaining.
Yeah, I do feel that if they're going to
it's
do it,
entertaining.
So I
know,
don't
it's
feel like
just
you can criticize it too much. Like, to me, even though I haven't heard this episode, I feel like it would rank up there in comedy with, like, Sunday Morning Scramble-esque episodes.
not up there.
it's like a tier 2
But
comedy episode.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, here's what I'll say in your argument, John. At least the kids aren't evil.
Right.
Like,
I'm
that's
not
Yeah.
saying it's a bad episode. It's a good episode. It's just, again, I feel like it's just a really generic
Right.
plot.
I won't say what show I'm referring to. There was a show where they rate the kids, the main character's supposed to be babysitting, so rambunctious it's almost too hard to believe.
Is it
And these kids
Arthur?
apparently give No, of course not. But moving on.
Wait, what is it?
It's Arthur.
Okay. Moving on.
Arthur
with the
isn't
rest of-
real human beings.
Well, yes.
VeggieTales
and
isn't
I know,
either.
but almost every show that does a babysitting episode, regardless of how accurate to life they're trying to be, write the kids as almost sadistically evil.
Yeah.
That's true.
So that's what I'm
But
talking
there
about.
are
These kids
those
act like
children,
kids.
let me tell you, in my 8 years
Well-
of babysitting.
Well, I completely believe that. I'm just saying, does it happen every time?
No.
Also,
The Y kid is
See-
much more common. I like that they
Yeah.
used a kid who has to know the answer to everything.
right. Well, that girl was 7. Are they generally that old?
No. Like 3 or 4.
That was the one thing that I get. They wrote her as 7 just so they could do a little more. The fact that she knows she asks too many questions concerns me.
Oh, that's funny.
Right. Although, and I did like they did a callback to Cal Jordan in this episode as the mini marshmallow mouth catching champion.
Oh
or
yeah,
something.
that was good.
Right. And on one hand, I like that they talked about the little moments are what the kids remember. I wish Eugene and Katrina each had, like, one more epic fail. Like, they don't really do anything particularly wrong in this episode. Besides, Eugene gets attacked by a bird, which I would have loved to have seen.
And that
I
sparked
feel like
the
that's a
episode for the
recurring theme
birds.
for Eugene.
That is a very good point. But yeah, it was nice to kind of see this, a more adult lesson about just because you think you might be bad at parenting doesn't necessarily mean you will be. Alright, last episode of the album, guys. Something Old, Something New, parts 1 and 2, 713 and 714. Written by Kathy Buchanan and Paul McCusker, aired May 12th, 2012. Penny brainstorms a way to promote Connie's wedding planning business, and one of her schemes drastically backfires. Meanwhile, Matthew and Emily investigate a woman who may be trying to scam Jacques Henry.
This
Okay, before
Okay,
I
we
forget,
all know
there's
why
one of
this
the
episode's
funniest
bad.
lines in Odyssey in this episode, and I don't remember it verbatim because it's not in the quotes on the AO wiki, but Connie said something to the extent of, when Wooten, they're posting with the pictures, that the only way I can get a man to look deeply into my eyes is to bribe him with licorice.
It was Meatloaf.
Meatloaf. But I thought that was pretty funny.
I
Yes,
think this is hilarious.
So I can't remember any other foreign media doing this, and that's why I think it's so funny.
I agree. I love the idea of part 1. There was something in part 2 that I despise, and we'll get to that in a minute. But I really do like the idea of, let's send out fake wedding invitations that everybody thinks a wedding's going on.
Except that that's not quite how it was supposed to go. It was supposed to just, like, be part of, like, her promotional package.
Right.
Well,
promotion.
it was a computer virus,
Right.
but it feels like a wacky hijink we've never really seen.
Yeah, I thought, which I just found it hilarious, and just, like, the way everyone's congratulating them, like, the only fault I see in it is that no one ever questioned the fact that Wooten and Connie would get married.
That is true, but I think everyone in town just loves Wooten so much they don't really think about
Yeah,
it.
It was
but come
also
on,
hilarious
Connie.
when they had the reference to, wow, why am I forgetting this? Okay, the pastor in...
Oh, George Barclay.
He
When he
called for
offers to come and
counseling.
do the wedding. The council. Yes.
I would like to sit in
there-
on a Connie and Wooten premarital counseling session.
I think we need to have a
Wooten and Penny.
counseling session.
That should have been a scene in the episode.
You mean
Where
George
for some reason they get roped into going to one.
No, Mr. Barkley, we're not actually getting married.
It's like, Mr.
Well,
Barkley traveled all the
sometimes-
way here for a premarital counseling session. You better do it.
Well, you see, sometimes Connie starts crying over bacon.
And sometimes Wooten
Connie
starts crying over
bacon
licorice.
after her mom died.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot that.
And I just can't stand... And she makes fun of my slide.
Is the slide still there at this point?
Well, the house hadn't burned down yet.
Okay.
Spoiler alert from the Ties That Bind, everybody.
Oh, by the way, we never hear the slide in Wits End, even though there is supposed to be one.
I think that... You mean the one in Colorado? I think they just...
Yeah.
No, from concept art.
Oh.
Is
There
it?
pictures.
Oh, you mean from the really early concept art of Wits End?
Yeah, probably.
I think they like what appeared in the animated show.
Well,
Oh, okay.
I'm
yeah.
trying to think, like, in the
I think they
official
kind of
guide,
That makes sense.
if it's in that concept art. I don't think so, though.
Okay.
Yes, and then we've got the Jones and Parker thing, which is fine, if not a little questionable why this woman never notices the kids.
Yeah, I mean,
And I
it's
don't-
kind of a, like, filler side plot.
You're a CIA agent or FBI agent.
Well, exactly.
Like,
Alright, that leads into this
and why
point.
would... Yeah. Just
Go ahead, John.
No,
No, I'm good. I've got like 5 minutes on this.
keep going then.
Okay.
Oh, boy.
Brace yourself,
We gotta
Sam.
follow
Don't bring it.
this.
We're gonna have to
5 minutes on here.
We're,
Sorry.
John will be right back, and we might have to go to this episode and explic because of it. Adventures in Odyssey.
Well,
We're bringing Mitch back in such a hateful and dismissive way to the fans. I don't really care about Connie and Mitch getting together,
Well.
but there is something incredibly spiteful about this whole thing.
wait,
Okay,
about
it's-
what?
Do you have a grudge against someone, or the writers, or did you have
Wait
like
a
a
second,
crush
I
on
just
Connie or
missed
something?
the
Like,
first point.
there's some love-hate relationship going on here.
Okay, so Mitch comes back at the end of part 1, and he's getting married.
Right.
So, remember this whole thing, Connie and Mitch were... Connie and Mitch were clearly never going to get together, but the writers could have written it out in a way that was felt one, less rushed, and two, a little less, you know what, we're just going to give this to them to shut them up.
I don't think it's that big of a deal, except that it's really unfortunate to me that Mitch got married. Because Connie and Mitch were like, I shipped them.
Again, that's why I'm saying Connie's probably gonna get with Jason in the next few albums.
No, I don't see that happening.
Here's the problem. I don't think that's what it should be, but, like, there's no one else they could actually do it with.
Jeff
and
Lewis.
I don't...
Yeah.
Married.
I don't see him as a good Odyssey character, honestly. Like,
Wait,
he's
is
not
he married?
interesting enough.
I thought they said he was married.
Oh.
I could be wrong. But it's just, like... I don't think it works, but I don't know how else they would... Like, who else? Because
they need to spice it up a little.
They probably want to get Connie. They probably want Connie to get married, but they don't want to spend another 10 issues of building a relationship with someone.
No, there is one person who has a built-in relationship, and they could do it.
Jimmy?
Which?
Okay, just stop.
I know, no, but if they do Jason, that's almost the thing. That's kind of her marrying Wit in a weird way. I don't think that should ever happen, but, like... Well, then Wit would be Connie's father-in-law, which is pretty much what he already is.
I feel like they should do it because Odyssey needs to switch
some
things up.
random new person, kind of how they brought Mitch into the picture, but then like have it just all really work, and then like it finally like be the person God has for Connie. And, like, just bring someone in that there's no history with, and they can create this, like, nice relationship. Like, just with minimal issues so that it doesn't take too much drama, but it, like, shows a healthy relationship.
That would probably be a better idea.
No, haven't they said things on the official podcast about Connie's never going to get married?
Right. I don't really care if they get her married or not.
Connie and Mitch would never get back together. The writer who wrote Connie and Mitch's story, like, gave a list of Nathan Hubler had to paint his toenails and a bunch of stuff.
Right, something about Ronald McDonald becoming a vegetarian.
Yeah.
Just the way they presented it here, I think there was a better way to do it. Like, maybe Mitch showed up during Green Ring.
Yeah, but I think it was kind of like the irony of the whole situation, too.
Right. I think part of it should be...
It was kind of like... just pretty much to say to the fans, stop complaining about them not getting together.
And that was my problem. Like, had he shown up during Green Ring, maybe Connie could have realized this was never going to happen because I just can't handle that lifestyle.
Yeah.
And again, so in a way, this episode's worse than Sergeant York to me, but the first part's so creative in its idea.
Yeah, I'm not too mad about how they did it. It might have been a little bit harsh, but I think because of the part of the situation, like, it wasn't like Mitch, like, they wrote Mitch to have any ill intent towards Connie. He thought Connie and Wooten were getting married, and so, like, it just was kind of like another, oh my gosh, we just got wedding invitations sent out, and now Mitch is telling me he's getting married, and just, like, adding to the comedic crisis. So I'm not too mad about it.
For some reason, I'm pulling Mitch out of their hats at the end of part one. That felt a little too... Okay, they're going for a jaw drop here, so...
Okay.
Yeah.
And I also cracked what was going on with that woman as soon as Mitch showed up.
Yeah. Not good.
Right, but hey, I mean, we've still got Wooten and Penny, so...
Or do
How is that ever going to work? That's not ever going to work.
That was my one thing, that they're almost so similar it might cause a rift.
Let's talk about this when we get to the album.
Yeah, let's talk about it in album 60 when we apparently get to meet Penny's family, if anyone listened to the official podcast. So any final thoughts on the episode?
It's okay.
I thought it was pretty funny.
Hilarious.
You know, hilarious until they...
Okay, we get you.
Okay,
Well, let it go. We have heard your opinion. And also, it's a little hard to take you seriously with that earbud coming so far out of your ear.
Okay, I'm sorry, everyone.
It's not bad. It's just, it looks like it's like floating, and I keep looking at it and cracking up.
Well, that's why we're in the bottom of the screen, so it'll be fans can't see it as well. But anyway, that wraps up the album. So what's everyone's final thoughts?
Like,
A halfway decent album.
give it like a 5.8, which 5 isn't bad. That's like it's an average album.
Yeah, I'll give it a
Yeah,
4
there
and
were
a
a
half.
few. There were a few really good ones in there, but the 4-parter kind of ruined it.
Yeah, I'd say like a 4.8. One, because Sergeant York is easily one of the worst episodes of a reboot. I'm more against the Mitch decision than the actual episode, and the ending of the nursing home episode really rubbed me the wrong way. Although I did like that she clearly had Alzheimer's, and they never really overplayed it in the script.
Yeah, I think overall, like, it has decent. The album has decent ideas, but it lacked like thought through the content, and that comes out in the actual playing of the album.
Yeah, and they were just starting to get their groove back.
Yeah.
All right, so that wraps up this album. We are now moving on to trivia. Did anyone come up with a question this week?
20-page papers do not have time for coming up with trivia questions.
Of course they don't.
I could give you a
But-
trivia question on major synoptic problems and other problems in the New Testament, but that's about it.
Okay, so this is going to be a relatively hard to answer question because I think I finally come up with something a little more deviously cunning. All right. Sorry, I'm trying to remember.
You're just trying to come up with
Okay, now we're doing the Gauss dramatic pause.
Yes, we are. But in the episode, sorry. Okay. All right.
Okay. Any
In
day.
the episode, Odyssey sings, "What does Crying Brian Dern use to stop the people from singing?"
Rubber
A
duck.
duck.
Okay. Clearly, Elizabeth
Okay, I
has brought
actually,
more
like,
IQ to these
Legit,
questions.
I listened to the episode for like a year every night when I was probably
loved
6.
that episode. In the car, in his bedroom. I heard that
So-
episode at least once a day for at least a year.
There was a point in my life where I could recite the whole episode.
Interesting, because we have an episode coming up about episodes we'd like to see them tackle, and for me, a musical episode is one of them, because I think this episode was not a great way to do a musical episode, but...
It was obviously trying to be American Idol, and Crying Brian Dern was supposed to be Simon Cowell.
Oh, yeah, you can leave.
Yeah.
All right,
Gotta go.
All right, yes. Now, we do have to wrap up, so join us next week when we tackle Album 40, Out of Control!
Oh, wow.
All right, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, SoundCloud, YouTube, and you can find all those links in the description and send us fan mail. We are now taking fan-submitted trivia questions, by the way, because we just need some more of them. All right, I'm Will.
I'm Gabe.
I'm Elizabeth.
I'm John! We'll see you next week. Hey everyone, forgive the poor visual if you are seeing this on a video podcast. This is Will, the host and editor of the Adventures Through Odyssey podcast. We had a little fun with swear bleeps today, but we would like to assure you nothing was actually said and we just bleeped out me shouting a random word. Alright, see you next